I welcome you to the 26th class of this series. In the last lecture, we had done sunspot cycle, One Health and vaccine development. Everything was done in detail. Today we are going to do the herd immunity. Herd immunity, when came in news in March, daily serological study was not done. But what I have done is that daily serological study results and everything I have included, and I will tell you in detail what is herd immunity and do we infer anything from the daily serological study or we should not. Okay, everything will be discussed. What is rapid test? This rapid test only has enabled Uttar Pradesh to conduct so many tests that Uttar Pradesh is now at the second position in the testing after Tamil Nadu. Maharashtra has become the third number. So we will see what is rapid test. Then comes convalescent plasma therapy. Anyone recovering from a disease, their body's plasma is used for therapy, that is convalescent plasma therapy. We will see in detail. Herd immunity is very surprising. You know what Britain said? Britain said that okay, we will have a strategy to tackle the situation of COVID-19, but we will not contain the spread of virus totally, but would not suppress it. See, the official said that Britain would contain the spread of virus. Okay, fine, they will contain it, right? But they will not suppress it totally, completely, because that will build a degree of immunity. That immunity is known as herd immunity. Very surprising. We are willing to do away with COVID-19 situation. We are willing to do away with the infection, but at the same time we are not willing to suppress it fully, so that an immunity is built in the community, that is herd immunity. Herd immunity is what will happen that in your population, suppose 100 people are there. If suppose out of that 60 to 70% people get affected and they recover, they will become immune to the disease. This is generally thought that this viral disease, for example COVID, some people become immune to that. Now when 60 to 70% people in the community are immune to the disease recurrence, that will mean that other 30 people who are not exposed to the disease, they are having less chances of getting exposed, because 70% people have already developed the immunity. That is herd immunity. Otherwise, the second situation can happen that you vaccinate the other people, 70 to 80% people you vaccinate. That is also herd immunity. Herd immunity is when a large number of people are vaccinated against a disease. Not only vaccinated, large number of people affected by the disease and also developing the immunity. That is also herd immunity. The immunity can be developed by vaccine, or immunity can be developed by infection itself, so that the recurrence is avoided, lowering the chance of others being affected. 70% affected, recovered, or 70% vaccinated, the other 30 people will have less chances of getting affected by this disease, getting infected by this disease. When a sufficient percentage of population is vaccinated, it slows the spread of the disease. Very nice. You can see the measles. Many people have developed immunity against the measles by getting infection or whatever. So only few people get measles now in our population. Previously, a large number of people used to get, even chicken pox, the same thing. So in those situations, herd immunity is developed. But what is the percentage? That sufficient percentage, this is a very vague term. That can be 95%. That can be 50%. So this number can vary according to the disease. This number can vary according to the people's, origin and their area of living, the general ecological system. Everything can affect this sufficient percentage of population which is required to develop herd immunity. It is also referred as community immunity or herd protection. Understand this from this infographic. This is the first situation. Here percent vaccinated people is 0. Vaccinated people 0, that means this red area is the infected people. Okay, red one is infected people, and this blue population is unvaccinated. So see, all of this blue population will be vulnerable to the disease infection by this infected red people. Okay, now see, percent vaccinated 25%, so red area decreased, that means infected people decreased. Okay, the yellow ones are vaccinated people in between the blue ones are uninfected, the yellow ones are vaccinated or who have recovered, and the red ones are infected. Now increase the vaccination more to 50%. Can you see? Now very few people in this population, the yellow and blue, are having the chances of getting infected. Yellow you can ignore because they are already vaccinated, so you consider blue only. The blue ones are having very few chances because the red ones have decreased in number. Now see, in this situation, see, just 1 or 2 spot of infected people, because 95% vaccination is done. 95% vaccination is done. All the yellow ones are vaccinated now. So even these blue ones who are not vaccinated and have not got the disease, have a very few chances of contracting the disease from these red spots which are infected people. That is how you can do a pictorial representation of herd immunity. But many of the scientists say this is not a scientific process only. This statistical system has so much vagueness and so much conditions, so many conditions, extraneous factors, that we cannot decide if herd immunity will work in this disease or not. Okay, globally this strategy has been criticized a lot. COVID-19 is a new virus. Okay, first of all, it is a new novel virus. That is why novel coronavirus, to which no one has immunity already. So more people are susceptible. Maybe it will happen that if you are waiting for the herd immunity and you are not developing the vaccine, maybe the situation can arise that already your 100% people will get infected. Nobody knows about this virus exactly, right? This is not virus which have already been dealt with in past. The goal seems to have been delaying urgent action to allow an epidemic to infect large number of people. Britain, if we consider the Britain's position in negative way, we can say that Britain is just waiting for the virus to infect other people, so that the herd immunity will be developed. That is so wrong. To combat COVID-19, there is an urgent need to implement social distancing and closure policies, so that the virus is done away with by the social distancing, the closure policies, the containment policies only. We do not need to wait for the herd immunity. This being said, let's come to Delhi serological study. What happened in Delhi serological survey? 21,000 random samples were taken from people. From different people, 21,000 random samples were taken. They might be infected, they might not be infected, whatever be the situation. And then a serological study was done. Serological study tried to find presence of antibodies, and those antibodies which are exactly specific to coronavirus. And this study found that 23% of the samples tested had these antibodies. What does that mean? That means that out of 21,000 samples, 23% people at some point or the other had this coronavirus infection. So first of all, that was very surprising. 23% is a large number, but that happened. Yeah, they must have been exposed to coronavirus. Only then these antibodies which were specific to coronavirus could have been developed. So some people are saying that means 46 lakh people in Delhi were infected already. And some people have started concluding now only this is a very large number. So Delhi is reaching towards herd immunity. That is a very good thing. Now Delhi population will not be infected because almost all the people are developing the antibodies against this. So they are kind of vaccinated. So normal population who are not having infection, there is very less chances that they will contract infection. Even Arvind Kejriwal made a suggestion about that. But scientists are saying that this is a very misplaced and premature position. At this stage, we cannot talk about herd immunity. Please avoid that. So let us discuss in detail. First of all, a scientist has said that you need the presence of neutralizing antibodies for this herd immunity or vaccination or immunity, whatever you can say. You need the presence of neutralizing antibodies. Even then, neutralizing antibodies could lose their effect after 4 months. So first 4 months you will develop the immunity. After that, you might get the infection again. This is not yet decided whether coronavirus can do the infection again or not. Reinfection can happen or not. The study is going on. But if you talk about the neutralizing antibodies which will fight the coronavirus, those effects can be lost in 4 months first of all. So that will mean that the person will have the antibodies, 23% people will have the antibodies, still they might not be having the protection against COVID-19 disease. Second thing, one IAS scientist says that, see, coronavirus is still evolving. It is mutating, changing its shape, changing its genetic material. So we are not having a stable coronavirus. So concluding that herd immunity according to this coronavirus which might change in the future is wrong. We cannot talk about the permanent protection right now. Let's talk about the definition also. Herd immunity is a stage of an epidemic or pandemic in which some members of a population group remain protected from infection because a majority of that population around them have already developed immunity. That immunity can be developed by either vaccination or just because those persons had been infected earlier and now they developed immunity against the disease for the second time happening. So that means everyone in the population group does not need to get infected before the epidemic is over. Maybe 60% people will be infected and the epidemic will be over because of the herd immunity. Once a certain this certain proportion is only confusing. How much proportion? Once a certain proportion of population gets infected and thus builds immunity against the disease, the epidemic begins to slow down and eventually it will stop, just like measles and just like chickenpox. Now here is the problem. How much percentage? No one clearly knows about what percentage of population needs to be infected before this herd immunity kicks in COVID-19. For different diseases, for different population groups, this is different. But yeah, at least 50% we know that at least 50% people will need to get infected before this herd immunity is developed. So in Delhi also just now 23%. If you consider only 50% the minimum level, then only a lot of people will need to get infected. That will mean that many of the people will die. So that is not something very good and something appreciable. In the case of measles, if you take the example, herd immunity reached at the level when 85% to 90% of the population attains immunity. That means 85% to 90% people getting infected. That means in India more than 1 Arab people will need to get infected by this disease COVID-19. If we take the example of measles, for COVID-19, some people have done research and they say that 55 to 70% of the population needs to be infected by COVID-19 so that the herd immunity can develop. That is also a very big number, almost 1 Arab only for the India. Also, herd immunity concept applies only when you have closed population group. Is Delhi a closed population group? Air transport, rail transport, everything is happening. Delhi is not cut off from the neighboring society. If we are talking about Delhi only, other places also the borders are no more closed. So doctor says that talking of herd immunity in Delhi is pointless if there is a free movement of people in and out of the city. Also, there is no uniform infection level in the population over which herd immunity would come in. Even if you consider Delhi, different localities, neighborhood would reach the herd immunity at different levels of infection, even if they isolate themselves from others. Some people are saying that only when the epidemic will be over, you will come to know how much herd immunity was required in COVID-19. So this was all about herd immunity. I told you everything, nothing is remaining. Now let's go to what is rapid test for COVID-19. What is happening? See, in normal PCR testing, what was happening? It was taking a lot of time, and a lot of cost was also high. So the testing rate was very low in India. So now the state governments are coming up with rapid test. First of all, Kerala announced. Now Uttar Pradesh is also doing the rapid test, and Uttar Pradesh has become the second state in the number of testing done. First state is Tamil Nadu, second is Uttar Pradesh now, and the third is Maharashtra. So Uttar Pradesh has taken over Maharashtra in testing facility because of rapid antigen test. In fact, Narendra Modi, Prime Minister, said that in India currently we are having 5 lakh testing per day. We want to increase it to 10 lakh testing per day. Rapid test, what is that? Rapid test for coronavirus determines that if the person had any recent infection of any viral infection in the person's body, when a pathogen enters a human body, a specific antibodies are released. I already told you in the herd immunity also that whenever a virus or bacteria enters in the body, our body responds with release of antibodies, and those antibodies are specific to that species only, which is coming from outside. Outside particle which is infecting our body is known as antigen, and in response we release antibodies. So rapid testing is a very useful thing when community transmission of virus has started happening. It has already started in India now, all the scientists are saying. So it will detect the presence of antibodies in your blood, serum and plasma samples very quickly. Within, I think, 30 minutes the results are given, and if in your blood, serum or plasma samples antibodies are present, that will indicate a viral infection. Okay. And yeah, for checking the community transmission, you need this rapid testing, otherwise it will take a lot of time. The last topic is convalescent plasma therapy. First of all, United States went for this. Indian scientists and many researchers were confused that whether we should use it or not because there were some safety issues. But recently, India has also started doing this convalescent plasma therapy. In United States, what happened? Many people got infected. Okay, it was spreading to a large extent, and vaccine was not developed. So they Food and Drug Administration जो है आपके United States में, they decided that they will be facilitating access to COVID-19 convalescent plasma for use in patients with serious or immediately life-threatening condition of infection. Not in all of them, the critical ones, who are in ICUs and everything, the death is near, then we can go for convalescent plasma therapy and give it a try. Now this convalescent plasma therapy is also related to your antibodies only. Suppose you could have seen in Telegram and everywhere people are posting that we need plasma from anybody who got infected from COVID-19 and recovered because someone in our family is infected now and he or she is in a critical stage. So what do we do here? First of all, we take blood sample, not blood sample exactly, we take plasma. Plasma is part of blood, okay? We take plasma from the person who has recovered from COVID-19, because once the person is infected with COVID-19 virus, SARS-CoV-2, the body develops antibodies. So if we take those antibodies from the plasma of the recovered person and transfer it into the blood of someone who has got the infection, the body will react. The body will get the antibodies from the outside to fight COVID-19. In that way, person can be saved. It's a kind of donation from the recovered person to the person who has got infected. It seeks to make use of the antibodies developed in the recovered patients against the coronavirus. The whole blood, you take either the blood if the blood group is matching, otherwise you can take the plasma from those people are taken, and the plasma is then injected in the critically ill patients only. We are not going it for a general treatment. Generally we are treating with many medicines, the general medicines. Right now we have no vaccination, so we are treating patients with the other medicines available. But if a person is critically ill and it is feared that he might die, then we will take plasma from someone who is ready to donate, or if the blood group matches, then we can take the blood only. Then we will transfer or inject into the critically ill patient so that the antibodies are transferred, and that will boost the fight against the virus. It will help with the immunity. What are the WHO guidelines in this regard? WHO guidelines came in 2014 that mandate a donor's permission. Okay, that is why we ask for this. A permission is needed from the donor that yeah, my plasma can be used before extracting plasma. You cannot go to someone and say that okay, you got infected with COVID-19, let me put an injection, I will take your plasma. No, that is not possible. Obviously permission will be needed, very general thing, but this is WHO guidelines, so we needed to know. Plasma from only the recovered patient must be taken. Somebody is already ill and you are taking the plasma, that means you might transfer some virus also. That means you might not transfer the antibodies with the plasma, which might not have developed already. So someone who has already recovered and has given the permission, then only you can take the plasma, and donations must be done from the people not infected with HIV. Remember, if you take the transfer from HIV infected people or hepatitis infected people or syphilis infected people or any infectious disease which can transfer to blood or plasma, the new person who is being donated the plasma will get the infection with HIV, hepatitis, syphilis or other such diseases. If whole blood is collected, the plasma is separated by sedimentation or centrifugation. If whole blood is transferred or donated, then you separate the plasma with the techniques of centrifugation and sedimentation. Centrifugation is what? Okay, you have this circular area, there is a centrifuge. So you know centripetal force and centrifugal force in physics, right? So according to the different masses and densities, blood systems separate itself. Plasma will separate, RBC will separate, WBC will separate, everything will separate. This is centrifugation. And sedimentation, normal. According to the weight and density, something will go down, something will be above. So that is sedimentation. It is used in microbiology and everything. Then injected in the patient. If plasma needs to be collected again from the same person, it must be done after 12 weeks of the first donation for males and 16 weeks for females. Why? Because it is thought that in 12 weeks for the males and in 16 weeks for the females, plasma, the amount you had donated is recovered again, regenerated again. If you had donated the plasma, sometimes you already know. For blood donation also, there are guidelines that how many months you need to wait. That's all for this lecture today, a small lecture. Tomorrow, a day after tomorrow, I might not be present because I have some urgent things to do, some interview. So that's all. And in the next class, we will see April month science and technology. See you next time. Thank you.